Hi, this is me going undercover as a pro audio engineer into the HiFi show coming up.
Alright, so my job today is to ask questions. Something like, can I use these HiFi headphones or whatever for professional audio mixing? Do they have a flat frequency response? Calibration questions? Are they easy to drive? Is the amplifier mandatory? Etc. Hey!
Hello?
Hey, we meet again!
Yes.
So this guy did a review of Holo Audio a while ago. Did not recommend them. Alright, the first stop of today, literally after the entrance, it's Acute, if I pronounce that right.
Acute Audio. This is the world's only headphone that has a built-in vacuum tube. You can see it right there, glowing. We put the entire system actually in the headset. So the DSP, a dual-core DAC, dual triode, preamp, and monoblock, so discrete amplifiers.
For example, if you are like a multimedia professional or maybe even an audio engineer, the added value from having a chance to EQ them in a way, that maybe opens the door as well to using this SAT as a professional tool.
Oh no, absolutely. That's actually something that's quite interesting. We didn't intend for these to be pro audio. We intended these to be, audiophile listening headphones for music. But a lot of our customers are actually sound engineers. And one of the things that they like to do with this is they can actually dial it into a specific sound and test it. So they get away from their linear studio monitors to hear what it sounds like on a system. And then if they're like, oh, that's maybe a little too bassy, they go into the app and they make some quick adjustments on the fly before going back to the computer and making them in the mix and then retesting. So they do become a nice part of the chain. Or they'll put in a preset that actually lines things out and make them into their studio monitor as well. And they can jump in between, what does Harman sound like? Okay, now I'm going to jump back into my flat linear studio monitor mode.
I asked Caleb, about his review basically, and he said he needs to talk to his boss about it.
I don't really know what to think about these headphones. These are about $550. I wouldn't recommend them.
He also did explain that he spent about 2 minutes listening to our product when he did the review, and in general, he spends very few minutes on those TikTok shorts and quick reviews. So it shouldn't be taken too seriously, really, from what he said to me. Hopefully, I will get him again around here.
According to their website. Everything on the website is that they market this as being made for monitoring, and they say that it's helped tuned with the power of AI processing. What the are they talking about?
Alright, the second stop, and I've met with Dan Clark Audio, the man himself. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
You have a line of different headphones. Of course, they don't sound the same. So how do you approach tuning them and making those little nuances and little decisions?
I think probably the most important thing to understand about us is the way we design our headphones is to focus on the science of accuracy.
So if you were to recommend one of your products for professional use?
Yes, I think probably the Stealth headphone would be the reference for that. We went to NAMM for the first time last year and met with a lot of production people and mastering engineers, and they really do gravitate very heavily toward the Stealth for its accuracy. The Core is an all-new design. It is our most efficient headphone. The tuning that I mentioned earlier, the corrections to the Harman curve, this headphone embraces those. It's our first headphone that we've tuned since we corrected the errors that were in the Harman curve everyone in the industry uses. And so it does have a little bit of a different voice to it.
So
The curve has an error. Nobody knew how big the error was, so the goal that I had with Sean was to measure and quantify the error and then do listening tests to validate that the headphone was as close as possible to the original target that they developed with their custom ear. We have met, gosh, I can't even tell you the number of people in the pro world who are building home studios. They're just getting started, and cost sensitivities are a real issue. Putting speakers in their studios is a real problem. And I think the key takeaway for the pro community is you may want to use some EQ based on your personal hearing or your preference to get our headphones to be exactly where you want them. But you don't need a lot of EQ, and they're all very close to the best target that we have to say this is accurate. And I think we're the only company in the industry that can say that about their whole product line.
beautiful. Dan, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. All right, so the day came to an end, and I do have my favorites. Hey, I'm back, second day in HiFi Vienna, and as mentioned, the 3 units that I listened yesterday and I think could be used as, well, without a doubt, could be used as professional units, professional mixing units, even though they are made for HiFi community. One of those units is over here from Dan Clark Audio, and that would be the Eon Core, they call it. It's a new model, and it definitely sounds, at least to my ears, it sounds flat and neutral enough to trust it with my mixing decisions. So yeah, it's a HiFi product, but it is tuned neutrally and could be easily used for professional audio. I found
Caleb,
I'm gonna ask him if
he finally got the permission to talk to me.
all right, the second unit, we're not in order, just the second on the list today, that I do think is neutral enough to be used for pro audio mixing would be the Austrian Audio Composer, this one over here. So that is the Austrian Audio Composer with the Austrian Audio amplifier paired over here. That is, I think, one of those units that can be easily used for professional audio mixing and mastering. I turned my back on Caleb for a second when he was working, and now he's gone again. I don't know if I can ever get this guy to confirm or deny the participation in the interview. All right, and the unit number 3, again, not in any particular order, the third one that I do think is neutral and ready for professional mixing, even though it is from the HiFi community, would be the Meze Audio Strada. It's $7.99 and really nice headphone. I do think you can actually mix on this really well. All right, that's the list. It's strange. Ah, there he is. Hey, I found Caleb.
Hello.
Nice meeting you. Oh, so nice meeting you. So you've been doing basically reviews for quite some time now, and
Yep.
you have a really nice like a TikTok and Shorts formats to reviewing basically. So I'm sure there are limits in what you can do in shows like this, but what is your mindset? How do you approach basically reviewing products and brands?
Yeah. So when I do reviews, when I first started, I would read all the marketing materials and I really get into it. But as I've done a lot more and more reviews nowadays, and especially when you're on a show floor, you don't have a lot of time. Impressions on a show floor is just completely different from actually sitting down and listening to something, right? I truly do not care about 95% of the marketing that goes into a product. I care what are the features. does it sound good? Is it customer friendly? And what is the price? Half the time I don't even know what the driver's config is. I don't know what the price is, because I think that's the best way to be, as bias free as possible, right?
But you did mention, something that sounds good. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think something that sounds good, one thing to be balanced, right? You have sound that sounds balanced and quote unquote neutral. That's something that I like. But at the same time, I want to see a bit of a vision when I see a product, right? If you want to make a bassy headphone, make a bassy headphone, but give me a vision here,
Is that they market this as being made for monitoring, and they're saying that it's helped tuned with the power of AI processing.
I want to see like thought and intention behind a product's sort of tuning, right? And if there's an interesting story to say, go ahead, right? Because not every product can be like a Sennheiser HD 600 where it's just your studio reference mixing headphone or something, right? So that neutral.
The bass is barely there just to be enough for neutral, like open back headphones.
Do you have a take in terms of what a pro audio headphone should be like versus ideal HiFi audio should be?
So that goes back into the whole marketing thing that I was talking about. I think they are all the same. And so I'm not a mix engineer. I don't mix, for music. I've done front of house engineering, which is basically live mixing, right? And in my opinion, at least in my experience, is that there's an interesting divide where you'll see pro musicians, they aren't audiophiles, right? I have musician friends, drummers and stuff, they aren't audiophiles. I let them try my gear, they say, yeah, it's cool. And they walk away, they're like, whatever, right? Because I think the difference is that they use them as tools while we use them as, as a way to engage and disappear into the music, right? Whereas they use it as a tool to create the music.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think there's much of a difference at all, or any difference between a studio headphone, quote unquote marketed studio headphone, and a high quality hi-fi headphone. I would say that it just really depends on your use case, right? And if you're a mix engineer, when I was doing front of house engineering, if I knew my IEMs are extra bassy, I would EQ that to compensate, right?
So this headphone, in terms of build quality, they really have to go back to the drawing board here. There's very, very little adjustment here. It's like barely anything. And on my head, you can see it sort of floats a little above. The clamp force is actually okay, but this part kind of sticks out a little bit. And the wood that they use here, well, let's just say they're not carpenters. They should probably do a bit of woodworking classes.
From my perspective as a pro audio owner, is that the serviceability, the durability of materials, if you can replace parts yourself, stuff like that actually makes a lot of sense in pro audio world, because basically your livelihood depends on the tools, like you said, delivering every time, anywhere, and if something breaks, next day deliveries can solve these kind of things.
Yeah.
So on that note, when you're reviewing, and you do that, so when you're reviewing a pro audio product, do you look at it solely from the sonics perspective, or do you take a moment and consider all the things that come around the pro audio stuff as well? Thank you for holding the mic.
Yeah. No, that's actually a very no, it's okay. That's actually a great point, honestly. And one, I would say, that becomes a different type of reviewer, right? As a quote unquote hi-fi audiophile reviewer, I care, well, my primary audience and the way I look at it is I put myself in the shoes of the customer. If I buy this headphone, I'm not a logistics manager managing, 30 different IEMs or 30 different headphones for a venue, right? So that's a very different approach to reviewing, and it's a fair one, but it's also a very different audience. So for my audience, the quote unquote hi-fi guys, audiophiles, I really care more about, the sound quality, the individual features. And not to say those features aren't important. It could be something that someone really appreciates, right? But and it could be good marketing points, and that I think comes back to the whole product design, usability, that sort of thing, right? If that's good, that earns you extra points, right? And it would go into the whole review, but I just wouldn't look at it as a whole industry thing where I'm saying, okay, I need to manage a team of 30 of these headphones, and how easy can I get it the next day? Because they are good things, but not necessarily for me necessarily. What I care about is, if I have a product that breaks, can I get it, can I get the warranty done in 6 months kind of thing, right? Versus, because I've seen horror stories, especially some of the boutique stuff, it takes 2 years to get something back.
That's the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to get that back. Caleb, thank you very much.
Of course.
It was lovely meeting you
Of
over
course.
here.